All right, welcome along to the RTÉ Soccer Podcast. Raf Diallo here. You can watch, listen in, or subscribe for free on RTÉ.ie, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. At the time of recording, the Republic of Ireland men's manager has yet to be announced, but the women's team are about to return to action, and we've had the big kick-off in the League of Ireland Premier and First Divisions, plus the Champions League last 16 first legs continue, and we'll have a live game for you on Tuesday night. Now, to talk about that and more, I'm delighted to say I'm joined by RTÉ Sports' Anthony Pyne and former St. Pat's, Shamrock Rovers, Bolton, Hibs and Preston striker Eoin Doyle. And welcome, both of you. Hope you're both keeping well.
All good, all good.
Good, Raf.
Good stuff. And Eoin, I suppose it's the first time you're on the pod with us. So how has retirement been treating you? Because it's about sort of 6 months now since you finished up with Pats.
Yeah, it was summertime. Yeah, it's about 6 months now. So no, it's been good. It's been good. I haven't missed it, which is a good sign, I suppose. I'm glad that the football's back now, the League of Ireland. I've become a fan, so I've been up to Tallaght for the last 2 weeks and enjoy bringing the kids up there to watch the game. So it's it's good.
Yeah, and on the Ireland managerial search now, that we might as well just get stuck in, because this saga, there was the talk of Lee Carsley at the start of last week potentially still being on the cards. Shay Given on the telly then on last Tuesday night essentially said that he doesn't think that's going to happen. Brian Kerr reiterated it then the following day. And then at the weekend, the name Chris Coleman has emerged out of the blue as potentially being the next manager. Now, nothing is confirmed. We don't know what's going on. But, from your vantage point, what have you made of it all?
I know there's been so much noise regarding it, and obviously lots of negativity towards the FEI, I suppose, and the way it's kind of been approached and why it's took so long. But if I'm being honest, look, I think they've kind of gone about it the right way. They're taking their time. They're doing some proper due diligence, I'd imagine. They're interviewing a lot of people. And any noise that's been coming out of it, it's very unique. Usually when a manager leaves, another one comes straight in relatively quick after. Kind of a weird situation here where it's friends of potential candidates are going on to the telly and kind of saying whether they are going to get the job or not. And some of the candidates are working in the media themselves. So it's very unique. It's something I've never seen before. Regarding the next appointment, I don't really think the person that gets the job is that important, in the sense of whoever get. I think the manager of the national team in 4 years' time will be far more important to me than this manager now. I think we're kind of at a bit of a transitional period regarding the players we have at our disposal at international level to qualify for tournaments. So, me personally, the manager that comes in, I hope, is a good character, is able to kind of play the press and downplay expectations, because realistically, if we were to start qualifying for tournaments, it'll be a bit of a miracle in my eyes when you see the standard of the other international teams. So yeah, a character over ability now for me. People that someone that can kind of play the media, keep you guys, I suppose, on the back foot and not putting too much pressure on the team. Yeah.
Yeah, well, hopefully not too far on the back foot from our point of view. But just a final one on, say, if it, Chris Coleman's name has emerged, and obviously from your time playing across the water, what's his sort of reputation in terms, especially from the club side of things? Obviously, we saw what he did with Wales, and he had a great time of it, taking them to the semi-finals in Euro 2016. But from what you would hear behind the scenes at different clubs, what's the sense of what he's about?
Yeah, so like, I was touching on a character there previously when we were speaking about the next manager, and he certainly is one by all accounts. I've heard some great stories of his like halftime team talks and stuff like that over the years when he was Coventry manager, and had a few friends that played under him at Sunderland. So and that didn't end well, but I think the club itself wasn't in a great spot. So it was a difficult situation for everyone up there at the time. Obviously, we'd all look back at his Wales situation and hope that that's something he could do for us if he was to come in. We don't have a Gareth Bale though, unfortunately. So it's listen, as I said, this managerial appointment for me isn't that important. It's about someone that's able to come in, kind of keep playing, or come in and try and play to our strengths. Get these young players that we have coming through, getting loads of experience at international level, to kind of in 3 or 4 years' time to be really pushing for tournaments.
Yeah, and I will see there might be an announcement in the next week or so, but we'll have to see. Just on Chris Coleman being sort of like a special character, that was I remember doing an interview with Thomas Rosiński, the former Everton, Fulham striker, and also would have been at Anderlecht. And the one thing he only remembers from Fulham is he absolutely loved Chris Coleman, called him a special character, and just felt like he was a brilliant man manager for whatever that's worth. Obviously, the FAI are looking for more of a training ground head coach, and Coleman apparently doesn't really fit that bill, but we'll see where that goes. But Anthony, in terms of the women's team, that's a lot more crystal clear. We know the friendlies that are coming up. So Friday the 23rd, so this Friday in Florence, they're up against Italy, and then the following Tuesday they're playing Wales in Tala. And can you just give us a little bit of an update on the squad, because a couple of players have pulled out, and so the makeup of the midfield is going to look a little bit different.
Well, yeah, I mean, Denise O'Sullivan is the big one. She's out with a knee injury, as is Tyler Hojlund. So the two of them were, automatic starters throughout the Nations League campaign. So will be missed. But, thankfully they're missing two friendlies as opposed to qualifiers, which begin in April. Ireland will find out in March who they're going to be up against in those games. They'll be in a 4-team group for the qualifiers. And even if they finish bottom of that group, Raf, they're guaranteed a place in the playoffs because they got promoted in the Nations League. So more fresh faces in this squad. Eileen Gleeson's brought up Jess Fitzgerald. She's only 17. She plays with Peamount United. Very, very talented young midfielder. Emily Murphy is an England underage international, but she's obviously eligible for Ireland as well. Her father is Irish, and she's a striker. She's playing in the States, but she came through the ranks at Chelsea. Well regarded, loads of potential. So it'll be interesting to see if she gets a chance. I'm not sure where she is in terms of clearance to actually play. I'd say they're trying to get it over the line ahead of Friday. So there'll be changes, and she'll probably look at a few things. But they're two good friendlies, and it's her last chance to sort of fine-tune preparation for those qualifiers. And there's quite a bit going on, Raf, because she's only just finalised her backroom team. Colin Healy, I'm sure Eoin will have come across Colin. Again, he was great reputation in the game and was really popular among the players. He was part of the interim management team throughout the Nations League, and Emma Byrne, who's an absolute icon, among those players too. So they're staying on, along with a Welsh coach called Rhys Carr. He's been brought onto the coaching ticket, and it's part of this new sort of way of doing things with the Ireland women's team. Whereas Eileen is now sort of regarded as a head coach above this structure below her, and they'll probably take charge of individual components in the team, midfield, defence, and attack, and she'll be sort of delegating more, as opposed to what we saw under, say, Vera Pauw, who was sort of controlled every aspect of what was going on, all the way down to strength and conditioning and diet, all that type of stuff. So look, it's interesting times. There's also questions around, I did have to field questions today around her old job, which is the head of women's and girls football, which is a really important role in Irish football, really important, because we're at a period now where that side of the game here is growing hugely and very, very quickly. It's currently not being filled. Eileen was in that role. She got promoted to the management position. There was reports last week that the FAI, it's not a permanent role now. It's a fixed term role, and we don't know how long the fixed term would be. So it's led to questions around Eileen. Her contract is for 2 years as manager. Is she going to spend 2 years as manager and then return to the head of women's and girls role that she previously had? And she basically just didn't want to address that today. She wants to focus on the game. So we don't know. There's not much clarity around that. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how that sort of plays out. But as of now, that position isn't filled. It just means that she's kind of in a little bit of an awkward situation again, because when she was the interim manager, she kept having field questions about whether she was interested in taking the job permanently, and she couldn't really answer it because she didn't want to compromise the process. She knew the search was ongoing. And it feels sort of similar again here. She's had to bat these questions away. But anyway, look, generally on the pitch, they're in rude health. They have a very strong, deep squad. And it's two good friendlies for them. Italy and Wales. Italy are a good side. They're in the top 16 in Europe, ranked in top 15 in the world. And Wales are about 34th. So two stern tests, and they'll probably learn a little bit more about themselves after.
Yeah, and bolstered by the returns from injury in Eve Fahy, Ethan Mannion, Leanne Kiernan, and Jess Sue as well. But the one I had that I was a bit interested in maybe chatting to you a little bit about was Amber Barrett, because of course, look, her name is always going to be up in lights in terms of Irish women's football history, given the goal she scored in Glasgow to get us to the World Cup. her position in the squad has been sort of under question, just not so much even based on her club form, which actually seems to be pretty good, but it was ever since she went to Belgium and yeah, I suppose towards the latter end last year as well, she kind of slipped off the radar when it came to Eileen Gleeson's choices up front.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's just competition for places. Like after the World Cup, when they sat down and discussed how that went, the FAI and Mark Cannon, the director of football, and they spoke to Eileen as well when she took on the job initially in an interim role. Like they felt the squad was the average age was too high in the squad because they're looking towards the next two major tournaments. Nobody wants that World Cup to be a one-off. Ireland should be getting to the Euros. They should definitely expect to get to the Euros, and they should be looking to get to the next World Cup. But they need to reduce the age profile of the squad because there was just a lot of players the wrong side of 30. So I think she's just sort of started to hasten the process of giving younger players a chance, and particularly younger players based in the League of Ireland. She obviously has been involved in Irish women's football for a long, long time, managed in the league. As I've mentioned, she was the head of women's and girls football, so she knows it inside out. And what you're seeing is players like Erin McLaughlin, who actually is, Amber Barrett is Erin's idol. They're both from Donegal. Huge influence on her career, but like Erin is getting a chance at the expense of Amber in the previous squads in the Nations League. I just think it's competition for places. That's all it is. Amber needed a move away from Germany. She didn't have a good time there, but she's happy in Belgium. She's playing well. Claire Reardon is there with her, a Standard Liège. And she'll get her chance. She's back in the squad for this camp, so she'll get minutes on the pitch. But she's the same as every other player. Like I think there's only maybe Denise O'Sullivan, Katie McCabe, Louise Quinn, Courtney Brosnan. Maybe a couple others that you would say are definitely guaranteed, they're nailed on to start most games. And then after that, it's really toss of a coin. Like there's a lot of players that are scrapping for positions, which is healthy as well. So yeah, look, I'm sure she's mad to get a chance and probably prove a point, Amber Barrett. And I'm sure she will in the next couple of games, and we'll see if she takes it.
Yeah, indeed. And of course, just a reminder of those games. So it is Italy on Friday in Florence and then Wales in Tala next Tuesday. Now, the SSE Airtricity Men's Premier Division and First Divisions returned, and it was the big kickoff on Friday. And the results from the Premier Division were Bohemians 2, Sligo Rovers 2, Derry City beat Drogheda United 2-1, Pats won 1-0 away at Galway United, Shamrock Rovers and Dundalk in the TV game live on RT2 and the RT Player. They shared the spoils, a 1-1 draw there, and then Waterford and Shelburne also drew 1-1 as well. But we'll start on Dundalk and Shamrock Rovers' draw on Tala. But first, let's listen to Stephen O'Donnell. He was just talking about the Dundalk performance and also how happy he was with the performance of Mayowa and Imeshahun.
We look to threaten the counter. Shamrock Rovers is a good team. They have lots of options, and it's not often people come here and come away with the point. So we're happy with that. It's a building block, but ultimately we want to get to a place where we're coming here and going to everywhere and playing at home. That we're disappointed with a draw. It's 2 points drop. So I think we're on the right path for that. Stephen,
finally, Andy Boyle got the man of the match from Kenny Cunningham, but the player alongside him as well, homegrown if you like, Mayo Animeshahun, had a super game. Yeah, excellent. I thought the two of them done really well. As I said, Maya was thrown in from in at the deep end. His first full start. Didn't play at all last season, and then you're playing centre half. At Tala, first game of the season, I thought he was excellent. Handled himself really, really well, and you can see what a specimen he is, and has all the attributes to really go far. So that is Dundalk head coach Stephen O'Donnell there speaking to Tony O'Donoghue after that 1-1 draw. And Eoin, looking at that Dundalk performance, I think beforehand the suggestion would have been Shamrock Rovers look really strong. They're at home. They've strengthened really well. Dundalk have made 11 changes to their squad during the off season, and it might take them a little bit of time to gel together. But they were really, really impressive throughout, especially on the break.
Yeah, absolutely. And the there was a lot of unknowns out on the pitch there. There's a few players that none of us kind of really knew what they're gonna be like. And I was very impressed with them all, especially the two fullbacks were excellent. I thought Walker was excellent left back for them. And obviously Scott Hoy in the middle of the pitch was very good. He didn't see much of the ball, but when he did, you could see he had little moments of calm and nice little passes and stuff, and kept things taking over. But Dundalk will believe they're disappointed. Football matches are won and lost in moments, and they obviously went 1-0 up, and then they hit the post to go 2-0 up just after half time, and Rovers then kind of equalised shortly after that. And if they had to put that in the back of the net, it would have been a different outcome, I'd imagine. But Rovers are still very strong. They dominate a lot of the ball. Dundalk had to work really, really hard for that point. And they've so much, like, their squad is so deep. They've got so many great players still to come into it. So I've no doubt to be picking up more wins than draws anyway as the season goes on.
Yeah, and on the the free kick that Jamie Gullen scored, like, it was obviously well taken and everything else. There's obviously a lot of focus on Leon Poles in terms of replacing Alan Manus long term after Manus's retirement. What did you make of that? Because I know there was a bit of focus on Poles and maybe that he could have done better as well in terms of actually making the save and actually preventing Gullen from scoring that free.
Yeah, I suppose we're all looking across the whole league. We're all looking to see how the goalies really do, I think. But yeah, he had nothing to do in the whole match. Neither keeper had much to do in the whole match. And yeah, for me, he should probably get a hand to it at the least. It kind of goes in centrally enough. But he'll learn from that. And for other moments that he had to do, he done well. He made a good save from Darrell Horgan from distance. And yeah, he'll learn from it. Like, I'm sure he might just position himself differently when he's lining up free kicks now going forward. He obviously hasn't played an awful lot of matches as a number one, and he's been at the club a good number of years now. So he'll need time to settle in, I suppose, and try gain some confidence. But I think he'll look back at that himself and think he should have done a bit better. Yeah, but like, from Dundalk's point of view, you look at there was obviously two big moments in the match. The free kick to go 1-0 up. Darrell Horgan was playing centrally a lot for the first half. He wins the free, and then for the second moment Dundalk had was when they hit the post. It was great play down the right by Darrell again. He puts in a beautiful cross, and O'Kane hits the post. As I said earlier, that could have changed the outcome of the match. But I think for Dundalk, keeping Darrell Horgan fit and keeping him playing with confidence is going to be huge for them.
Yeah, and let's listen to Shamrock Rovers manager Stephen Bradley. Now, he was given an update on Neil Farrugia's injury. There was some suggestion it might have been a broken collarbone, but he actually clarifies what the injury actually was, and then also Aaron Green's impact before he scored the equaliser.
How significant was the Neil Farrugia injury? And I'm hearing that it's not collarbone now, it is a dislocated shoulder. So can you bring us up to date on how he is?
Yeah, I've just heard that it was dislocated. They've relocated back when he was in the hospital, and he should get out tonight. So thankfully it's not collarbone, so he should be okay.
How much of a difference did that make to you? And of course the man you brought on to replace him had to go off pretty soon afterwards as well.
Yeah, I think it was more the time of the stoppage. It was 10 minutes, and it really took the momentum out of the game. We were really playing well at that stage. And then it was a pretty even game after Neil went off until half time, and then second half we were a lot better, but it definitely took the momentum out of us.
You've a lot of young players come in, you were freshening it up, you said, but it was Aaron Green who came on and I suppose turned the game in many ways for you. Yeah,
he was unlucky not to start. Aaron, he's been brilliant all pre-season. We know what he gives us, and he gave us that energy in the second half, and which allowed us to play hard at the pitch. He was very, very good.
So that is Stephen Bradley there. And just on Neil Farrugia's injury, Eoin, I mean, his qualities are very apparent, in those kind of wide spaces, his speed and his power as well. How big a blow is that? I know that their squad is very deep, but he does bring some unique characteristics.
Yeah, of course, there's not much pace and power in the league, and Neil has that in abundance. He's when he gets to the other side of a player, there's no catching him. So, but obviously, unfortunately, he's had a tough time with injuries throughout his career so far. But I think he needs to take confidence out of this one, in the sense that it's a dislocated shoulder. It's not something muscular. It's just an unfortunate accident that's kind of unfortunately played out for him. But he doesn't need to look at this as an honor setback, really, in the sense of it's not his muscle, it's not his body's breaking down on him or anything like that. This is just one of them unfortunate situations. But obviously for Clark then to come on and replace him and have to go off again, he was himself coming back from a recent injury is unfortunate for him, definitely.
Yeah, and then Derry City's match as well, they beat Drogheda 2-1, and I think pre-season, the sense when Patrick Hoban was brought in, it was about making a difference in games like this, and he does exactly that. And I guess for yourself as a former striker, you probably appreciate the movement that he showed for the rebound of the goal, well, the second goal, which ultimately proves to be the winner before obviously Drogheda pulled one back later with a brilliant goal from Evan Weir.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got that instinct, the striker's instinct. It was a great strike by Patching, Walken obviously made a good save, but parried it into the middle of the box, and there was Hope, and he was left unmarked at the time. I think one of them like centre backs in this league need to realise, like, under no circumstances when Patrick Hoban's in the box do you ever leave him unmarked, even when you think the ball's going out of play, because as what happened with that shot, Patchin's a good strike, Walken parries it out, but Hoban's on his toes, and he like a proper instinctive poacher's goal. It was a great little finish, and to get that goal in your debut early in the season, it'll take a lot of pressure off Pat himself and fill him with confidence going forward, definitely.
Yeah, and Pat's also off to a winning start, winning Galway, and even just looking at the highlights, the conditions didn't look particularly good for a nice game of football. But Pat's got through it. Galway are going to be a tough nut to crack there as well, and of course they had Stephen Walsh sent off near the end as well for dissent, which didn't help their cause. But from what's your thoughts on Pat? You've been very close to that squad, at least up until very, very recently, and they have strengthened well. They've lost a few key players. I think the right back area is one where there's a lot of focus as well, but obviously getting off to a great start is really good. But in terms of their longer term prospects, what do you make of it?
No, I think they've strengthened. I know they've lost Sam, Curtis, and Murphy, and Tommy Lonigan, but I think they've actually strengthened this year. If you look through the whole squad, I think it's a bit deeper. It's got more strength there. Regarding the right back situation, obviously Sam's obviously going to be a big loss. He's one of our upcoming stars in the country, so we're all hoping he does very well over there. But they've actually got two very good right backs at the club in Axel Sauberg and Ryan McLaughlin. So it's just a matter of keeping them fit. They both have gone through a bit of a Fallujah kind of situation as well themselves in the last year or so. So they're if they can keep them fit, they'll be all right in that position. But obviously the conditions, looking back at the highlights of it, looked awful. It was a tough foul match. Not much quality on the pitch, really, I wouldn't imagine, due to the conditions. But to get the early goal, they hang on, and to be fair to Galway, like, they ask lots of questions, they put lots of balls in the box, but when you've got Joe Redmond and Keeley there to head balls out, it's a great asset to have for the club, having them two back there.
A good clean sheet for the keeper on as well up there. Like, he did tough night in the President's Cup, but coming out of there, be good for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like, and listen, I played in Joseph and Ang's first match in the President's Cup as well, and he didn't have a great night that night. And he went on to do great stuff for the club throughout the season, and this goalie they've got from Liverpool, he's got a good pedigree. Everyone speaks highly of him over there and stuff. So I'm excited to see what he can do. It was a bad old night from Antala last week, but they've been telling me there that he's been doing well so far. He comes and collects things from corners and crosses, and that gives defenders great confidence as well. So he'd be delighted with that, coming out of there in them conditions, keeping a clean sheet when the ball's being bombarded into the box, and you see the highlights, Galway did pummel the ball in a lot. So no, it's good for him.
Yeah, and actually, just on the goalkeeper thing, like as you mentioned, the Anang thing from the President's Cup a couple of years ago, where he starts off not particularly well, and then he sort of grows into it. As I suppose outfield teammates, do you sort of rally around them, or do you just, in a way, do you just kind of leave them on their own and just kind of trust that they'll bounce back?
I know you kind of leave him alone and let him do his own thinking on it. The goalies, you have to remember, like, and Joe was in the same position when he first came over here. He probably never played in a game like that in Tallaght, like 8,000 fans. Probably Joe at the time, he was over probably 6,000-7,000 fans at the match in 10th. You've got all the Rovers fans behind you. Like, I can imagine there's a bit of abuse going on there and stuff. And great learning curves for these young goalies coming over. I know when West Ham were coming over to watch Joe play in Richmond, they loved it, especially in the Dublin derbies, because you could have Bows or Shells or Rovers behind the goal, and they're literally 2 yards from you, and that's intense, proper atmosphere. If you can get through games, keep clean sheets, make some good saves, but taking on this abuse and these learnings, it's really good for young goalies, and it's a great league for that, for especially for the young goalies coming over from England and stuff. It's great learning for them to come over here and experience these atmospheres and try to do well. But he'll be okay. He'll be okay. He's going to be a good goalie, I think.
Yeah, and Anthony, you were watching Waterford and Shells for us on Friday night, and Waterford, from looking from the chances they created, they looked really bright, especially in the first half. Shells got back into it then through Sean Boyd, who then later got sent off. But what did you make of the Shells template? Actually, was it more the same, just trying to be extremely organised and then trying to hit on the break, or did you see some sort of evolution with some of the players they brought in?
Yeah, they were kind of out-Shellsed by Waterford in the first half. It's interesting, actually, just to roll back on something I'll mention there, that he didn't like. There's not much pace in the league or power. I don't know. Did you notice that on when you came back to Pats, like as opposed to the leagues in England?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, that was the biggest. There was no difference in technical ability with players and stuff. Players in our league here, great technical ability, but the athleticism and the pace is something that's not quite here yet compared to over there. Definitely. And I know you're going to touch on Asamoah's goal,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Sargent obviously does well. He comes and collects from the wide free kick and puts a lovely ball straight into his path, and you can see him just outpace Lunny, and he once he got going, there was no stopping him, and he got a little bit lucky with the finish. But it was a great to see him. But there's nothing better when you have a player in your team that has pace and he knows how to use it, and he certainly knew how to use it in that situation. He just opened his legs and went for it and got the reward at the end.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's just as Owen says. I mean, that's the thing you take away from it. Asamoah, who actually wasn't massively involved, but every time he had a bit of grass to run into, like his pace is unbelievable, Raf. And you just think like that potentially could be a serious weapon for Waterford. I think there was from the tip off, so Shells tipped off, and I think it was Ryan Burke. I think it was Ryan Burke or Niall O'Keefe actually was one of their midfielders. Absolutely steamed into a tackle, like 2 seconds on the clock, man and ball, and that just set the tone for the first half. They were really aggressive, well set up as you'd expect, by Keith Long, and they've got some good players. Asamoah is just such an outball for them. Connor Parsons had a good game. Barry Bagley is a really nice player. And then, you got the likes of Grant Horton came off the bench, so there is a bit of depth there as well. I think Waterford are going to be, I mean, it's really difficult to call who's actually going to go down this year or even be scrapping around the bottom 2 or 3. It really is and it certainly hasn't become clearer after the first night because Waterford were excellent. I think what got Shells out of jail on Friday was their bench. They have a good bench and I think Damien Duff I think he made 5 subs. And they did. Jarvis was really good when he came on. Sean Boyd got the goal. I think if Boyd didn't get sent off, because it was 10 minutes of stoppage time, I think if he didn't get sent off, they may have gone on to win it. They had momentum at that stage. It took them an hour, but they did come into it and they were on top. But it would have been tough on Waterford. Waterford were worth the point. And I just think it'd be interesting to see how Asamoah does this year, because just as Owen says, it's not just pace, but knowing how to use it. Like he knows he can give a lot of players a 2-yard head start and he can still beat them. All he has to do is just shove the ball past them. And he's strong as well. And he's not a bad footballer. He's potentially a massive weapon, particularly if they're going to play a lot of games sort of with 5 at the back or, 4 and maybe 2 sitting mid, like deep. Make themselves really difficult to break down. And then what an outball, this guy, like just knock the ball into space. And he is going to, at the very least, put a pressure on the fullback to concede a throw in or a corner or something that he doesn't want to do. And obviously there was the crowd get up then. There was a great crowd at the RSC. So it was a good night for them. I enjoyed it now. I have to say it was a really good battle. And Damien Duff, I think, said afterwards that he was disappointed with his team's display. I think that there's more in Shells for sure. But in fairness, it wasn't made easy for them. It really wasn't. And I think the big positive for them is that they didn't get bet. They found a way to get out there with a point and get themselves off the mark.
Yeah, some of Damien Duff's comments afterwards were kind of funny as well in terms of the Ireland managerial search. I think he referred to how it's gone on as embarrassing as well. And he did suggest also that he had been not approached directly, but there had been some contact, but he's not interested. He's very much committed to Shelburne. The other bit of news from that, Romeo Akachukwu in that game as well. Like obviously a young teenager at Waterford, part of the Ireland under-17s last summer in the European Championships. It looks like he's going to be on the way to Southampton for around 500,000, and he's picking that club over some of the more illustrious clubs that have been interested in him because there's more of a promise for game time, apparently. But the final game we're going to talk about is Bohemians 2, Sligo Rovers 2, and Bohs get off to a good start with Sten Reincourt, the new striker, the Estonian international that they brought in, scoring. But then, Eoin, I mean, Sligo will come away with from this game, I guess, a little bit disappointed that they conceded very late on, especially all the pressure they've been, that they seem to be under in terms of that a lot of people expect them to be scrapping in and around the bottom. And yet they turned that game around. They made it 2-1 for a long stretch. Hartman scores a lovely goal, great feat. So there's a few positives there, at least from John Russell's point of view.
Oh, absolutely. But as you said, when you can see in the 94th minute, you're always going to come away feeling, God, that's 2 points dropped there. And in the manner that it was, I think like Clark, who's going to be such a huge player for Bows this season, he picks the ball up deep and he starts the move, passes it wide, and just sons into the box unmarked, and then obviously finishes with a great header. And I think John will look back on that and be disappointed in his team not kind of marking the run and staying with him into the box to make sure he doesn't get on the end of things, because he's such a threat for Bows. But now Sligo obviously off to a really good start, and some wonderful, both of their goals were good. And now Hutchinson's was a bit unfortunate in the sense of kind of ricocheted off him and went over the goalie and in, but it was lovely play up to that. And then obviously Hartman did a skill, bit of quality from the corner and dribbles through 3 or 4 players. And when you're in them tight positions inside the box, one of the best things you can do is aim for the goalie's legs, and he did that, and it went through his legs and into the goal. So no, I think Sligo, obviously it would have been nice, considering where everyone kind of thinks they'll be at the bottom half of the table this year. It would have been nice if they were able to pick up the 3 points. They will feel like it's 2 points dropped, but they can't take confidence out of it, definitely.
Yeah, and obviously Max Mata as well, who was signed just before that opening match as well. So he's returned to the club on a short-term loan from Shrewsbury, and he's going to be here until the English pre-season, and that's sort of where we're at. And then Bows on top of it as well. They had the good news last week where they were given the green light to redevelop Dalymount Park after the plans were ratified at a Dublin City Council meeting last Monday night. The ground, if and when completed, will have a capacity of just over 8,000, so that's 6,240 seats and 1,794 standing. And the stadium, the development stadiums, that's going to be a huge part in terms of developing the game here, Eoin. But from your point of view, even as a player, there's a lot of focus on trying to make it a hospitable environment for supporters to come in, and even for from a media point of view. But as a player, like you've played in England in some great stadiums, how much of a difference does it make walking onto a pitch or even walking into a dressing room where the facilities are up to scratch, and you've a full stadium of whatever it is, like we're talking about 8,000 capacity here. Does it make much of a difference to you as a player kind of walking into that environment?
Definitely before and after the game it does. It's a good little confidence when you're going into a stadium and you feel like you belong in this great arena and stuff, and that can do you wonders of confidence and stuff. But like when you're on the pitch and you're on the grass and it's 11v11, you're just playing a game of football and all the noise kind of stops and you're just in the moment. But no, it's great to see that these things are starting to happen in the country now. You can see hopefully Dalymount gets done quicker than we'd like, in the sense I hope it's not like 2032 or something before it's built. I hope it's in the next couple of years and they really get going with it. And it'll be great. It'll be great for them. It'll be great for the league. We need better facilities here for fans. They sell out every week now. They need a bigger attendance coming through the gate there, and it's exciting times for the league. Like I've said this when it first came back, and the league's definitely on the up, and we're really looking forward to seeing it in 20 years' time. And hopefully we have loads of more stadiums and the caliber of talent around the country, and we can go into these match day experiences that are really good and enjoyable.
Yeah, and the upcoming fixtures in the Premier Division. So Friday night are going to be playing Waterford, Dundalk are going to be playing Galway, Shelburne against Shamrock Rovers, St. Pat's against Bows, and Sligo Rovers against Derry City. That's going to be next Saturday, or this Saturday coming, should I say. And then the first division results, that also kicked off. UCD won 2-1 away at Bray Wanderers. Cork City beat Kerry 2-0. Treaty United were 3-1 winners over Cove Ramblers, and then Athlone beat Wexford 3-0 on the Friday. And then Saturday, Finn Harps were 3-2 winners away at Longford Town. And one of the things that stood out after the game actually was the comments of Longford Town manager Stephen Henderson, who was speaking to Eoin Cowser, and this was in and around why they prefer to play their home games on a Saturday. And what he said was, the thing I've always maintained is the first division should be played on a Saturday. Every team should play Saturday. It's not just about football. There's so many different things in life, and one is we need players who can get time off on a Friday to travel to games. It is something I feel should be looked at, because I know of lads who have missed exams because they had to get to games, which isn't fair. I hear this nonsense that if you want to play in the League of Ireland, you have to make sacrifices. They make enough sacrifices already. And the one thing he clarified afterwards just on Twitter was that he doesn't expect a wholesale change to a Saturday to happen. But Eoin, for yourself, I know the Premier Division was slightly different in that it's more full time, but there were still a few, like Drogheda United would have been part time last season and still are this season. But what do you make of Stephen Henderson's argument there in regards to this, Saturday possibly being a better night, particularly in the first division level?
Yeah, it was something I never really thought about until I seen his comments there on the weekend, and it makes sense from his point of view. I can understand that he wants his players to be as fresh as possible going into a match, and especially for the likes of a Longford, where they wouldn't have many locals playing. They'd have a lot of lads travelling from Dublin and other areas to go up and play for them and stuff. And for lads not to be having to get off work early or try to get the work done earlier in the day, which just adds extra stress and tires the body out more, I suppose you could say, it would be more beneficial for the teams that are part time to maybe play on the Saturdays, in that sense that it'd definitely help their recovery if they were relatively fresh going into matches instead of having to be doing your 9 to 5 grind on a Friday before a match and trying to get off earlier to play the match and maybe travel half the country to do it. It's not easy on lads, definitely not.
Yeah, and then just a word on Cork City and obviously Tim Clancy, who you've worked with. He has the experience of bringing a club up from the first division. So Cork City have somebody with a huge amount of experience there. He won't be really judged on matches against Kerry, given where Kerry are at. But what's your sense of Cork City with him in charge now for the season?
Yeah, obviously the fact that he's done it before with Drogheda is great for Cork to know, I suppose. But he's also got a great pedigree bringing young lads through. And I think on the match on Friday, they did 5 teenagers on the pitch. Eoin came off the bench at 15 years of age. O'Sullivan, the number 10, who's by all accounts going to have a great career. And he's trusting these young lads to go out and play and to achieve. Like they have to come back up. They have to try. They have to win that league. There's all eyes on them. They're the big club in the league. So exciting for Tim, exciting for Cork, exciting for all these young lads coming through as well.
Yeah, and Cork are going to be at Finn Harps next. And just interesting comments in the Examiner from Finn Harps' commercial officer, Aidan Campbell, where he was talking about their issue with the new stadium, which is something we talked about there with Bowes. And what he said was, if we do not have a new stadium, we will not have a Finn Harps. The future of the club depends on getting a new stadium. And he also added, we've been living on borrowed time. We're at a crossroads, and it's very simple. There has to be a new stadium for there to be a bit Finn Harps and for there to be senior football. Everyone knows Finn Park is not up to spec, and it has been going on for too long. Now is crunch time, and they're trying to get fundraisers and things to get that over the line as well. But before we go, we have live Champions League action on Tuesday night. So that's Inter Milan against Atletico Madrid live on RT2 and the RT Player from 7:30 p.m. And I suppose, Anthony, a lot of the focus is on the likes of Manchester City and Real Madrid as being the two favourites. I think a couple of people are going to be looking at Arsenal, who I think we'll talk about next. But in regard to, Inter are going really well in Serie A, and they easily could have won the Champions League final last summer. So they're one that's definitely floating under the radar. A team nobody's would want to get, I guess.
Yeah, they are, Ross. They're actually arguably in better shape now than they were this time last year, like the top of the league. And they play 5 at the back a lot of the time. So just, you're always looking at who can potentially beat Manchester City. Like they just look like, they are the standard bearers, and it's still difficult, even if you watch the game against Chelsea, the 1-1 draw, like just them dropping points in the Premier League feels kind of seismic at this point, because this is when they go on their charge, isn't it? Every year they just seem to take off and go up about 3 levels and blow everyone away. So you're sort of thinking, is there anyone that can put it up to them? I think Inter Milan are one of the few teams, Inter Milan and probably Arsenal. I would have said Bayern Munich, but they're sort of in turmoil at the minute and maybe looking for a new manager in the next week.
Which I think I must add might free up Anthony Barry and then change this Ireland managerial saga once again by throwing another name into the mix.
So look, they are a very, very tough nut to crack. And I don't think it's going to be a goal fest with Atletico Madrid, but you probably fancy them to get through that. And once you get to the quarters, that point, like they're in it. They are in it because. They're a really good cup team as well. Like I think they've won two of the last 3 Italian cups, domestic cups. So they know how to play knockout football. They know how to play two-legged football, and I would say they have a very good chance of being thereabouts again. And I mean, if anyone watched the Champions League final last season, there was a kick of a ball in it, really. Like, I mean, they were very, very close to bringing that to extra time, right at the death as well. So yeah, they're a good side. They're a good side. And as I said, that there's not many teams that I'd fancy to have any chance against Man City over two legs right now. But themselves and Arsenal are the two I think that could make it a little interesting.
Yeah, they look a lot better with Marcus Thuram playing up front as well, alongside and sort of as a foil for Lautaro Martinez, and yeah, obviously change of goalkeeper as well. Onana is now at Man United, and Swiss number one is in goal for them at the moment. But Arsenal, Owen, I mean, they're returning to European action tomorrow night, or sorry, on Wednesday night at Porto, and Porto aren't going very well in the Portuguese league at the moment. They're third, but they do seem to be struggling. They're a bit off the pace of the two Lisbon clubs. But from an Arsenal point of view, would you be looking at it and thinking, especially given they've never won the European Cup or Champions League in either of its guises, that this is a huge opportunity for them? They're going really well in the Premier League at the moment, and this, like the pathway could open to a quarter-final or a semi-final, especially if they get past Porto, and if, say, City and Real Madrid were to run into each other on one side of the draw.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Arsenal are kind of in a position as a football club where they can't sacrifice one competition for another, because it's not as if they were to come out of Champions League early enough that they could concentrate on the Premier League and probably do it. That's not the case with them. They kind of need to stay in everything. They kind of need to stay in everything and try and win everything just to try and get one, because they can only go a certain amount of years without actually winning a trophy. And to be fair to Arteta, he kind of changed the club around from this kind of not nearly club, but they're really getting up there and challenging the top two now. So it's great to see another one come into the mix. We used to have it with Chelsea. Now Arsenal are kind of the ones kicking on to kind of try challenge against Liverpool and Man City. So it's good to see. Regarding the games this week, I think they really need to go to Porto, put on a good performance and try get through, and hopefully, as you said, get the look at the draw.
Yeah, and just on the Premier League title race on top of it as well. So, as you said, the top two, which would be City and Liverpool, have sort of been joined by Arsenal now. And there was a thing that Opta, who do statistical models and that, they gave, and this was before City dropped points at home to Chelsea. City have a 65% chance of winning the Premier League title. Liverpool have a 25% chance, and then Arsenal on 10%. But where do you kind of look at it the same way as well, that it is sort of City's to lose, and that, like, if a team is going to one team is going to stop them, that it is going to be Liverpool more likely?
Yeah, that'd be kind of my outcome. Yeah, that's how I'd look at it. I was really surprised at Chelsea's performance against them the other day. I thought they were excellent. But like City just have that kind of ability to get over the line and get results, and they look at that as 2 points dropped, because every time they drop points, they look at them as dropped because they're that good. But regarding Liverpool, like, it depends. Like, they've got such firepower. They're excellent. You see, Nunez scored a very un-Nunez like goal against Brentford the other day, going through on goal and just thinking it over the keeper. But if they can get him ticking and get him amongst the goals, I know he came off injured. Hopefully, it's not as bad as what everyone originally thought. But they can get him and Jota back on the pitch now, and obviously Salah comes back into the fold. They can really ask a lot of questions to City. They're the ones to have the points on the board at the minute. City are behind them, so it's when you're looking at the table, it's Liverpool's definitely to lose right now. But the size of City squad, how they play, the fact they've won so many Premier League titles over the last number of years, they'd be certainly favourites in my eyes still.
Yeah, and just as a striker as well, looking at Erling Haaland's performance against Chelsea, so I think there's a lot made about, took about 10 shots without scoring, which is the highest I think he's had since he's come to the Premier League. But there was the interesting comments the previous week that Pep Guardiola had made about his body language, and I'm just kind of curious, as a striker, do you take much, or do you focus much on your own body language in terms of how you come across to your teammates? Because I suppose there's nothing wrong with showing disappointment, like if you've missed a chance or something along those lines, or if you're frustrated with them. But what did you make of that, I suppose, with the striker's mind in it as well?
I think strikers are so dependent on everyone around them that if he is showing bad body language, he shouldn't, in the sense of, like, these are the lads that are going to provide the chances for you. If you keep this up, they won't cross the ball to you. That type of kind of mindset. That's how I would have looked at it over the years. And Pep's right, Guardiola's right to call that out if that's how he sees it. But regarding the other day, look, I know he missed a few chances that usually you'd expect for him to bury, but there was no like absolute sitter that he's missed there. Obviously, he had a good chance with a header, just miscued it a bit, and he's such a powerful player, and he's going to score a heap of goals between now and the end of the season. I've absolutely no doubts about that. And obviously under the guidance of Guardiola, where there might be a thing there where his ego's getting a bit bigger than it should be, no better man to get him back in place.
Yeah, and Eoin mentioned Darwin Nunez there earlier, Anthony, but it's the converse with Nunez. It seems like he can miss a hatful of chances, but he's sort of quite game, and he comes again and again and again, and then eventually he will find the net.
Yeah, there was somebody tweeted out like a little animation, like a skit of Darwin Nunez where they had him playing pool, and he has like there's a yellow sitting on the lip of the pocket, and he goes to put it and he misses it, and then Mo Salah puts a blindfold on him, and he cleans up the table. Like he's such good fun to watch, and you can see why Liverpool fans have stuck with him, because like his raw ability is massive. Like his ceiling is really high. It's crazy some of the misses that he's had. When you look at the finish on Saturday morning was ridiculous. Like if he froze it there just before he chips it, and you give like an A, B, and C option, nobody's picking what he does. But that's part of the fun, I guess. That's why the fans love him so much. Actually, to be honest, I think he's a really, really good player. I do think that some people have made a comparison to Drogba. You can forget in Drogba's first couple of years at Chelsea.
Yeah, he was a bit shaky, yeah.
And he went through kind of similar things. He endured similar criticism that Nunez has had to put up with, and then obviously he matures a little bit, and he just becomes like this legendary striker for Chelsea. And he could go that way, Raf. He could go that way. He had a terrible start. He got sent off on his home debut, if you remember, against Crystal Palace, I think. And last season was a disaster all around for Liverpool. They were all at sea. The midfield was, badly needed to be regenerated, and he's benefited from all that, all the energy behind him now. The team being more cohesive and fluid, and he's actually, if Liverpool are going to pull it off and win a Premier League, he's going to be massive for them, because it looks like Jota is going to be out maybe for, I don't know how long, but that looks bad. The knee, hyperextended knee. So his role is going to be even more important. But yeah, he's never boring anyway, Raf. That's for sure.
No, certainly not. And then Manchester United's Rasmus Hojlund, I mean, he was scoring, you could see the potential in the Champions League. He was scoring there, but then it took him a while to get the first goal in the Premier League. Since then, he's been on a magnificent run, and even the second goal he scored there yesterday for United at Luton, where he just at first when I looked at it, I just thought he got lucky with the chest, but actually when you look at it, it's a beautifully crafted finish. Just the way he almost sort of manipulates the ball, which is a very difficult skill, I suppose, to do it off the chest as well.
Oh, absolutely. And I've been very critical of Man United signings over the last number of years, and he's certainly not one of them. They're after signing a very, very young, very all-rounded striker, which are very hard to find. He's got a bit of everything. He's pace, he's power, he can hold it up, he's a good finisher, he's a bit of skill about him, and he's going to be a massive, massive player for United going forward. And I think in his first few months at the club, he was being failed by all the players around him. You'd have Garnacho wide or Anthony on the other side, and he just weren't putting the ball in the box from him. You could see how frustrated he was getting. He was making good runs. The ball wasn't coming into him, and he stuck with it. He kept going. He's getting his rewards now. He's amongst the goals. Great finish yesterday when he rounded the keeper, and as you said, and he was quick and alert enough to kind of know if the spot's flying at me for the second goal, I'll just get something out of my chest and into the bottom corner. Great stuff.
Yeah, and I suppose a final point before we go. So Evan Ferguson, on top of it, has there's been a little bit of focus on the sort of lack of goals in recent times, but looking at it, it's more he's not missing any major chances. It just seems like the things aren't falling for him, or the ball isn't coming to him in the box, and I guess that can be frustrating for a player. But he's only we have to remember, he's only 19 years old on top of it.
Oh, absolutely, and he's not getting enough minutes either. At the minute, they use him sparingly there. He came on yesterday. I think he had 25 minutes. So I wouldn't be judging too much if he was going 5 or 6 games without a goal after playing 90 minutes in each of them. I'd be starting to say, okay, maybe he needs something now, something to go out the back of his shin or something, just to give him a bit of confidence. But No, he was very unfortunate there against Sheffield United. Was it Sheffield United? Maybe in the FA Cup a few weeks ago, where he scored a header but was given as offside, and it was great ball in the box, towers above the centre back and buries it. Obviously, he was given offside, but now he's going to be a huge talent for this country and for Brighton going forward.
Yeah, and for whichever one of Lee Carsley or Chris Coleman or whoever ends up being manager, they know what they're going to be working with. We don't know what's going to happen there, and hopefully by the time we're back next week, we'll have an answer to that. Although I don't know, I'm not sure where I'm putting my money at the moment in terms of when we'll find out. But anyway, Eoin Doyle, look, thanks a million for your time today, and Anthony Pyne as well.
Thanks, Rob.
Cheers.